Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Nick and Joe Show. I'm Joe, he's Nick, and I'm coming to you live from the Think Radio Broadcast Center in Ottawa, Canada's national capital. And Nick is coming to you once again from Bunker F, which is on the farm. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the farm for Nick is somewhere around Killaloe, Ontario. And Nick's got family around the table there tonight, and he's got dogs, but most important of all, he has a budgie that thinks it's a parrot.
Yeah, it also thinks it's part of the show.
Definitely. You know, it's funny because we do our pre-broadcast meeting, and you know, when Nick's on the farm, he's and remotely we do the meeting remotely, and so sometimes we do it by phone, conference call. Sometimes we do it through online, and throughout the entire discussion, we do not hear a peep from that bird. or more accurately, we don't hear a tweet from the bird. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Housekeeping: if you're listening to the live show and you want to participate in our live chat, click on the chat or comment bubble in the player. You may have to log in. If you're not logged in, you may have to register. If you're not registered, that's just to make sure that you're a real flesh and blood human being, because we only want to communicate with flesh and blood human beings. No androids, no robots, no cyborgs.
I gotta say something about the bird.
Okay.
If that bird doesn't learn to be quiet during the show, he's gonna suffer the same fate as Representative-elect Lauren Boebert had for a dead turkey. We don't want to spend much time on this. Just a moment or two.
But it's funny. It's funny.
It is. It's hilarious. Lauren Boebert, if you don't know the name, comes from a place called Rifle, Colorado, and she runs a bar there, a firearm-themed bar called Shooters. Now, there's a picture of her hard at work in her bar, and she's sporting in one hand a jug of iced tea, and in the other hand it looks like a menu, and on her hip is in a holster what looks like a 9mm Glock pistol.
Right.
Okay.
Now she's just been elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, correct?
That is right. She will become a congresswoman. She is becoming a congresswoman for that district in Colorado.
Now, how is she getting around the latest COVID restrictions in her state, Nick? This is the best part.
Well, it's funny you should ask. Because apparently in Colorado, if you have a funeral, only 10 people can attend.
No. If you're having a family gathering.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, if you have a family gathering like Thanksgiving, you can only have 10 people attend. But a funeral can have up to 30. So she decided not to have Thanksgiving for her family. She's going to have a funeral for her turkey and invite a bunch of people to commemorate the life of the turkey.
Yeah, good for her.
I love this lady. I love it. That is so cool. We need that kind of spine and thinkability. Thinkability. That's a funny word.
Thinking outside of the box.
That's right. That's like your plunking. Anyway. All right. So I saw that story online. I thought, this is just too funny. Or you might have even showed it to me. I forget now which way it went. But
no. You were mentioning because we were talking about the COVID stuff, and we're going to get into this in the next segment. Lockdown burnout. But you were telling me how this person was getting around it, and you weren't sure about her name, and then you said, I think she has a gun-themed bar or something like that, and I thought, oh, she's that one from Rifle, Colorado, and that's it. So Rifle, Colorado, and there in the background, I just cut Nick off a little bit because he's just pounding away on his computer again.
Geez, I forgot. Okay.
That's okay, Nick. You drowned me out, Nick. You drowned me out.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it, man. So there are so many things that we would like to talk about tonight, and I think the first thing that we want to touch base on is hang on just a second, Nick. Let me just look something up here while I'm at my computer, because there was something. There are a number of really interesting topics, and we could spend time on any one of them. We talked about just in mentioning. Okay, we're just going to mention this in passing. Don't want to spend time on it, but how can we not at least make mention of the fact that in January of this year, so that's about 10, 11 months ago, our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, received, a telephone call from Greta Thunberg. And you all know Greta Thunberg, the 60-year-old climate activist. Anyway, it turned out that it wasn't Greta at all, that the Prime Minister was being pranked by a couple of comedians coming from Russia. It was our own version of the Russia hoax, and it took him about 10 minutes. By the way, they released a recording. These guys in Russia released a recording of the conversation, and he's having a serious conversation with this Greta Thunberg, who's talking about her worry about World War III possibly, and the fact that militarization, and this was just about a week after Iran had shot down a Ukrainian passenger's jet. So they're talking about all this stuff, and then she starts talking about these characters from South Park, and how she wants to meet them, and can the Prime Minister introduce her to them, etc., etc. Anyway, it takes a while, but then he clues in, and politely ends the conversation, and that was it. So that one, and it's about a 10-minute conversation, so that's why we're not playing the whole thing for you. But maybe next week we'll put some clips up or something like that. Anyway, that gets honorable mention. But on a serious note, Nick, all along in the springtime, in the summertime, and up until just the last few days, as the different drug companies have been working hard on developing a vaccine for the COVID-19 virus. We've had, in the last few weeks, nothing but good news about that effort, where we have two, and now a third one shortly will be announcing that they have a vaccine as well. And so it looks like they're going to have in commercial production, and they'll be able to start using this vaccination or vaccinating people somewhere mid to late December. And as these things were being announced, we were all very hopeful that we're going to get the vaccine here in Canada, and probably sometime late December, early January, Canadians will start to be vaccinated. Then all of a sudden, all of that comes to a screeching halt, because the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has now decided, or he's announced to us, oddly, that we don't have any capacity to manufacture any of these vaccines, and so as a consequence of that, we're going to have to get in line and wait for it to be manufactured, and we could purchase it from these sources. But of course, we're going to have to wait until all of the citizens of the countries involved get vaccinated. So what's ended up happening, according to our Prime Minister, is apparently we have to wait in line, which is funny, because I just want to say that I did tweet about this when I saw it, and my tweet was along the lines of, who knew that when the Prime Minister was talking about a fair and equitable distribution of the vaccine, he wasn't talking about third world countries in Africa. He was talking about Canada.
Look, it the incompetence here is hilarious on its face, but it's more than that. Because back on August 31st, 2020, he released a news release from his office. I'm getting this right from his own Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada website, okay? This is dated August 31st, 2020. And he goes into it. Let me just read one paragraph, and I'll give you some statistics pulled right from this thing. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, today announced that agreements in principle have been reached with Johnson & Johnson and Novavax to procure millions of doses of experimental COVID-19 vaccines. These agreements add to those already reached with Pfizer and Moderna, who were made following the recommendations of the COVID-19 Vaccine Task Force. All right, so here's what he said back then. Here's a quote directly from the Prime Minister himself. As we continue to work together to limit the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the health of Canadians, as well as its social and economic effects, we must also maximize our chances of defeating the virus. To do this, we need to invest in the development of several promising vaccines, and ensure we can manufacture and distribute vaccines to as many Canadians as possible, as quickly as possible. That is how we will move forward on a sustainable path to a full recovery. Now, that says to me, when he says promising vaccine, and we can manufacture is the killer sentence there. All right, and a bunch of other people back that up. Now, here's some quick facts, again, going back to August 31st, from the Prime Minister's own website. The Government of Canada will invest $126 million over 2 years to build the new facility. First of all, we already have a facility. It's owned by the National Research Council located in Montreal. World-class technology. They can do this stuff right now. Okay, right? Even then they could have done this stuff, but they got to build a new facility, $126 million over 2 years. The government will then provide $20 million per year to cover the operating costs. The NRC facilities at the Human Health Therapeutics Research Center bring together a variety of specialists, equipment, and expertise. He's talking about the one there that already exists. They provide a full range of services to therapeutic developments. And I can go on and on and on, pulling stuff out of this thing. This is what he said back in August 31st. Today, he announces, well, we've just signed 7 new deals with different offshore companies so we can make sure Canadians, because we don't have a biotechnological industry here in Canada to produce this. Well, we did in August. How come we don't now? So he was either lying to us then or he's lying to us now. It's bad, and people should be furious over this because we have the capacity in Canada to do this for ourselves. We don't need to go offshore. But Trudeau, in his wisdom, decided, well, you know what? Either I'm a complete blithering idiot, or I am completely incompetent, or I just don't care. And that is what makes me so freaking angry about this. You and I, look, Joseph, Conservatives have known about the incompetence, the gross incompetence of this government since before it got elected. We've been warning people over and over again. Justin Trudeau's not the man for the job. You look down the list of scandals, the incompetence, the gross neglect of duty, you name it. Everything from the Admiral who got thrown under the bus back in February to the SNC-Lavalin to these are just a few I can think of off the top of my head. And we've been telling people over and over and over again, this is their modus operandi. This is how they conduct business. And now when it really matters, because this goes right to their core mandate of protecting the Canadian people, not only does it fall flat, he smashes the concrete floor and falls into the basement.